Now, on a statewide basis, my emphasis was in several areas. One was in education. I always thought that next to your parents, arguably the most important person in your life was the person that taught you to read, because without that, you weren't going to be able to do anything else. And so that always made me feel very strongly that we really wanted to try and attract our best and brightest to education. Now, as a state, we've failed miserably at that since then. I'd like to say that occasionally I had the opportunity to help move the ball, but as a state, we have not valued education or educators like we should. But twice in my career in the Senate, in about a 10-year period, I was able to be the author or floor manager of 2 different bills giving teachers $3,000 salary increases, which were the largest and remain the largest in state history. And that was important to do, because the idea was you want your best and brightest students to want to be teachers, and you want to keep your best and brightest teachers in Oklahoma. Once again, subsequently, we've not kept that momentum going, and that's a frustration and a disappointment to me. I was involved in getting some funding, working with the George Kaiser Family Foundation to match it for early childhood education, because and it was aimed at students from at-risk homes who may need that, especially that early opportunity to have someone teach them how to do things as basic as tie your shoes, learn your 1, 2, 3s, your ABCs. And I'm very proud of that. We got 1,000 extra Head Start slots statewide to help students in that regard. We changed the law so that students who wanted to go to a school that was a better fit for them would have the opportunity. In the old days, school districts tended to capture students, and even if they wanted to, couldn't transfer. And I remember one time a young man from Sequoia wanted to go to Claremore because they were offering classes that at the time Sequoia didn't. Now Sequoia would. And he wasn't able to go, and I thought that was very wrong, because he wanted to go to West Point, and to be able to apply, he had to have certain upper level science or math classes. So we changed the law in that regard. We brought about school funding equity through a bill called House Bill 1017 that a lot of us worked on. In the old days, there were rich districts and poor districts. Oologah was a very rich district. Claremore was a relatively poor district. And I never thought that the way to do it was to bring Oologah down to Claremore's level. I thought it was better to bring Claremore to Oologah's level. And so in 1990, we passed a landmark legislation called House Bill 1017 that poured a lot of money into the education formula, so that for the first time in history, all students in the state had essentially the same amount of money following them, whether they were in a small rural school or a prominent suburban school or an urban setting, or in a school like Oologah that had a large power plant. And that's something that often went unnoticed with that legislation, in addition to reducing class size for elementary grades and having some increased standards for the upper levels as well, and some other reforms that were associated with it.